It goes around, it comes around, and they say, oh, you guys were good at this, we're going to do it. Let's go look here at the White House right now. There's President, the Vice President, Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, little Wisconsin flavor at the White House. Let's listen.
What do you want?
Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin.
Now we're talking.
We're watching the President of the United States. The Vice President's along with him, the Chief of Staff, Reince Priebus. There was some talk that the President would go to Wisconsin this week, and then that trip, which was never officially scheduled, we're told had to be pulled off the tentative books because of some security concerns. You see the President here outside the south lawn of the White House meeting with Harley Davidson executives and looking at some mighty fine motorcycles. Whatever your political views, you can't object to taking a peek at that. Leather jackets for the Harley execs, the President and the Vice President in their overcoat on a chilly day here in Washington. A couple interesting points. We'll watch this tape. If the President speaks in an audible way, we'll stop and listen to him. But as we just watch the tape here, it is interesting. A couple things. Number one, he has tried repeatedly to focus on jobs. He says that he's picking up the phone, whether it's the carrier deal during the transition, since he's been in office, talking about how he's going to make jobs priority number one. Wisconsin, one of those blue states that he turned red in this last election. So as you heard the President at the top, I love Wisconsin. But also, the production of the Trump White House. This is the South Lawn. We saw him this morning at the prayer breakfast. Then he has meetings in the Roosevelt Room. Now he's out, we're seeing him for the first time having an event on the South Lawn. For a president who gets the optics, he is using every piece of the platform. I don't mean this critically. The White House, you have the bully pulpit of the Rose Garden, you have the bully pulpit of the East Room, and now you're out on the South Lawn walking down the driveway and bringing in for a jobs pitch here.
But this is also just how Trump likes to work. He's not a guy who wants to sit in his office and read a bunch of briefing books. He wants to meet with people, talk to them face to face, hear their concerns, hear what they want, and start to sort of, like, in his view, get the deal-making process going. But I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't note that even though he has invited a number of companies, a number of business leaders to the White House to meet with him, they have these sort of very showy meetings, a lot of people in the business community are really afraid about what a Donald Trump presidency is going to be like. They're worried about the taxes he floated, they're worried about these immigration moves, and they're worried that high-skilled visas are going to be the next thing on the chopping block. So it's not all as merry and lovely as these meetings in the Roosevelt Room and on the lawn.
It's a great point. They love when the President says, and the Republicans in Congress say, we're going to give you lower corporate taxes, we're going to finally give you tax reform because of the uncertainty of not only the last 8. This goes back to the Bush administration. When are they going to get about the tax reform? But you mentioned Harley Davidson sells a lot of those bikes overseas, and so what is the President at an earlier event talked about renegotiating, renovating. He's a builder. He used the word renovating NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. He said to add a second F to make it North American Fair and Free Trade Agreement. So there is again uncertainty, disruption, and uncertainty in the early weeks of the presidency.
Well, I think this is interesting too about the divide in the business community, and there is one, is that there has been some push from the left and from the activist groups to say, sanitize yourselves of Trump, never meet with this man, we will boycott you if you even meet with him. But I think one of Trump's actual strengths, for those who disagree with him, is that he does synthesize information from new people all the time, and he does enjoy meeting with those people. And I would say that, I would caution that perhaps sanitizing oneself and not coming to the table does not work in one's advantage in that case.
He said this morning, Dan, at the prayer breakfast, I hope to see you 7 more times. And so he's thinking this through. Well, you know, a smart politician thinks this through. The President's going back into the White House there. Wisconsin, I mean, to all politics is local. This tape, we're playing it on national television right now, but it'll play a lot in Wisconsin as well. Pretty smart guy if he's thinking about his political future, isn't he?
Sure. And he was pretty smart through the campaign in the way he thought about how to run the campaign, much to the surprise of a lot of people who thought they were more expert about how campaigns should and could be run. He is thinking about that, but I mean, go back to the economic point, and Sarah's point was good about the consternation in the business community or the uncertainty in the business community. He's done a lot of things which have attracted attention. They're basically small things.
Right.
A small number of jobs saved, a small number of jobs created. But he's going to be judged in the way all presidents are judged on his economic record, right, which is by the big macro numbers. How many jobs actually is he creating? What is the level of employment or unemployment? And it's way early on that. He's sending signals to the people who backed him that he's going to think about their situation and do everything he can to create more manufacturing jobs in the United States, to think about the workers who've been left behind, to figure out a way to bring their wages up. But so far we've seen very little in terms of policy. We've seen more kind of just jawboning here and there.
Excellent point. A lot of businesses don't like that jawboning. They're afraid to be subject to a Twitter attack. And I would, to your point as we got to head to break here, wage growth, not just job growth, but wage growth is something he talked about. Stagnant wages in the country, and those numbers, we'll see those numbers in, shall we say, we get through 2018 midterms and head on to 2020. Quick break. We'll be back in a moment. We're also standing by for the White House briefing today. Stay with us.